We are going to begin on Chof Ches Amud Beis, by Iko da Amri. So yesterday we were discussing if somebody, Mishnah was saying if somebody goes overseas, so we give Chumrei Chaim and Chumrei Mesim. So yesterday we left off is that when do we say that Neisin Alav Chumrei Chaim and Chumrei that he died is by a Yiddish Beis Din. So now, Ikad Amri, other people say, Rabbi Yosef says, Lo Yishanu. This that we say that when somebody is going out to get killed, we put Chumrei Chaim's Ela Beis Din Shal Ivdei Kechavim only by a Goyish court. Because Goyim, they receive Sheichat, and it's possible that the guy never got killed. Aval Beis Din Shal Yisrael, but when it comes to Yiddish court, then the din is we do not put the Chumrei Chaim, because we say Kivin denafik leidina lektala kotle le. Since they paskind that he's going to get killed, for sure they're going to kill him, and the Yiddish courts do not accept sheichat. So Amar le Abaya, so Abaya says, Beis Din shal Yisrael nami l'chayra, even a Beis Din, a Yiddish Beis Din, it's possible that they didn't kill him after the chazal schusa, because it's possible that the Beis Din found a schus, or somebody came to Beis Din with a schus for this guy, and maybe they reversed their psak, and perhaps he's still alive. So the Gemara says, Ki chazal schusa, when do we look for schusim? Is makamei de ligmar dina before it was already nigmar din. But baser gemar dina sule chazil schusa, after the gemar din, then we don't look for a schus. In other words, once the Beis Din paskins, then that's the psak, and we're not chayshish for schus. Well, there's a psak. The Beis Din paskin, the Beis Din said, the Beis Din may put a psak. Correct. That this guy's getting killed. Okay, so now the Gemara says, shall we say that this, what we just said, is a proof, or they have a proof from the following Mishnah? And this is repeated. Yesterday we said, when you have two people that stand and say, we are testifying about this individual that he had a psak in such and such Beis Din, and these people are the Eidim that witnessed the psak, or were on the psak. So what is the din? We trust these Eidim, and the new Beis Din kills this person. So what do we see from here? That we do not worry that perhaps the other Beis Din found a schus. Rather, we say that if the Beis Din paskin that he dies, he dies. So the Gemara says, so that's going to be mamash like Rabbi Yosef. So the Gemara says, Dilma b'reich shani. No, you don't have a raya from that Mishnah, because when somebody runs away, obviously he's running away because he feels that there's no schusim for him. Okay, so now the Gemara says, let's bring another raya to Rabbi Yosef. Tashmak, I'll come and bring a raya from the following brisa. If somebody heard from the Beis Din, a Yiddish Beis Din, that they said, Ish pleni meis, Ish pleni nerag, this person died, this person was killed, Yasios ishtei, we could trust the person that said, I heard from the Beis Din that this person died, this person got killed, that he's not alive anymore, and the wife can get remarried. However, the brisa says, Me kuman derisim, if it's from the executor of the Ivdei Kechavim, Ish pleni meis said that this person died, or Ish pleni nerag, or this person was killed, Al Yasios Ishtei, we do not trust their testimony, and we still say that probably he's still alive. So the Gemara wants to know, so the Gemara asks, my meis or my nerag? What does the brisa mean by saying meis and nerag? Ilema meis mamish or nerag mamish, if you say that it means mamish, meis and nerag, and the Kabbalah say gabe Ivdei Kechavim, and then you're going to say that the same idea would apply by the person who kills. So why would the brisa say that they can't get remarried? That if a guy comes and testifies that a person did something without asking, we believe him. So why wouldn't we believe this guy? Elalav mace. What does it mean? Mace means yoytzelamos. He's going to go out to get killed. But nerag, and what does nerag mean? It means yoytzelaharik. He is going to get killed. Uktani, and what did the Reisha, the Brisa say? That based in Shal Yisrael Yasiris Ishtay, that only in a Yiddish court can we rely on this person hearing, and Yasiyas Ishtay. Because we say that by Yiddish accord, for sure, they fulfilled their psak and they killed him. Mamash like Rabbi Yosef. So the Gemara says, La'ilam, I can tell you, you don't have a raya from that brisa, because I can tell you, what does Mace and Nerag mean? It means Mace Mamish, Nerag Mamish. And you cannot bring a raya to Rabbi Yosef, because Rabbi Yosef was talking about Yetzer Laharik. You wanted to bring a raya that brisa is talking about Yetzer Laharik. And we see we don't Yasiyas Ishtay. In other words, Beis Din does not reverse its opinion. Zakta, no. Mace means Mace Mamish, Nerag means Nerag Mamish. And you asked the Chayr, the Kavosik, you asked by a goy, why do we say not? So he says that's not a question. Why? Because Hani Mili, when do we say that a goy is believed Mesiach Fitumay is only been milsed le Shaychebe, things that he does not have a shaykhs to. Have a milsed the Shaychebe, but things that he does have a shaykhs to, then of the Lachzuki Shikrayu, we could say probably he's lying. In other words, like this: things which he is believed Mesiach Fitumay is only things which he's not negea in them. But things which he's negea, for example, that he wants to go and start bragging to his friends by the bar that he killed this yid, so then we say Mustami is lying, and therefore we cannot believe his testimony, even the fee Mesiach Lefi Tumei.
There is no concept by yid of Yetzer to get killed? Between the period when they make
So that's the expression. When we say Yetzer Laharag means that the Beis Din already paskin that this person, we know the Gemara, he's marked.
Is that good enough for her to get married?
Yeah.
Even though he didn't die? Maybe he's marked.
Right. So that's the question. The question is that the question is maybe the Beis Din will find a schus, or maybe somebody will find a schus. So what he's saying is that once the Beis Din paskins, they obviously do a thorough investigation. As the Sugian Makkis at the end of the first parak speaks about B'chala, Beis Din killing is unheard of. So obviously, if the Beis Din paskin that this person deserves to die, then he is. You can rest assured that he taka deserves it.
Right, but did we ever speak about how long the times? It's far away. He's paskin. You hear that he's paskin, but you don't know for sure that he was killed. I mean, is there a time in between that, just like by a Geisha court, you're saying it could be Gittin Daf?
So we want to know in the Bride. So what does it mean? Shama mi Beis Din she'istol. He heard from a Beis Din Yisrael that the Beis Din said this person is mace, this person nerag. So we thought in the beginning it means it can't mean mamish nerag, because if it means mace means mamish, then why don't we believe the goy? So that's what he tried to bring a raya and try to say that it means that he's going to go out laharig, and that's why he brought a raya that by the Yiddish court we do believe him.
And that's good enough.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just want to know if he actually got killed or
Yeah, so we believe this psak. In other words, basically, picture once the Beis Din paskins, we don't say schusim. They're going to start looking for schusim. Okay, let's begin now the next Mishnah. The Mishnah says, Daf Chof Tes Amid Aleph. The Mishnah, Hamevi get. Hamevi get. If somebody brings a get of a woman, in other words, he's a shliach lehilacha in Eretz Yisrael, so he brings the get to Eretz Yisrael. Now, in Eretz Yisrael, he does not need to say befanei nichtav or befanei nechtam, because we said in the first Mishnah, you don't have to say befanei. Now, what happened? V'chala. And then the shliach got sick, so now he cannot bring the get. So what does he do? So the shliach now sends the get. He appoints a second shliach, and the second shliach is now the shliach leilacha. Now, v'im omar loy, if the husband told the first shliach the words toil lihemenu chefetz pleni, that when you give the get to my wife, make sure to take a specific article back in your possession. So then he cannot send the get. The first shliach who got sick cannot send the get in the hands of a second shliach. Why? Because the husband commanded the shliach to go, when you give the get, make sure you get back a certain pikadon. And he could say, Ein ritzonei, that shehei pikteni biyad acher. The husband doesn't want that his deposit, his pikadon, should be in the hands of a second person. The husband went ahead and told the first shliach, I'm giving you a get to give my wife, but on condition that you bring back this pikadon, So you got sick, and now you want to go ahead and appoint another shliach. So mele by a get, the husband doesn't care as long as the get is chal, but he wants his pikadon back. His pikadon, he says, I want you to bring it back. I don't want a second person to bring it back. Now, Rabbi Akiva Eiger has a very big shaila on this Mishnah. It's mashma that in the case of I maybe get Be'eretz Yisrael, you don't need to say b'fanai, so he can appoint. He gets sick. He can appoint a second shliach to bring it. What? I can't hear you.
He cannot say the Fanai.
So he doesn't have to say b'fanai because it's Eretz Yisrael.
Yeah, the Medinat has to. So it's a shayla. If he sends it from Medinat
No, but this is not Medina. Maybe get Be'eretz Yisrael. It's not Medina Siyam. We're going to discuss later about Medina Siyam, but this is maybe get in Eretz Yisrael. So he gets sick. So we're saying like this: by the get, he doesn't care. Mitamal comes to the bikadon, then he says, "Ein ritzoni she'bikteini biyad acher." Why don't we say that the guy doesn't want his get and somebody else's rishus? So Rabbi Akiva Eiger, so all the achronim deal with this. Rabbi Akiva Eiger leaves with a shaila. So I was learning with a friend of mine. He tells me Yishleimer, he could say that by the get, he doesn't really care. He doesn't, as long as the get is chal, he's chal. But his pikadon, that he cares about. So when it comes to his pikadon, he says shliach A yes, shliach B no. Okay. Now Rav Kana said that Rav Kana is going to explain as a Omar Rav Kana. Rav Kana says when the Mishnah says that v'chala means chala tanan, dafke that the shliach got sick and he cannot bring the get himself, so he appoints another shliach. Now, but if the shliach, let's say for example, he got lazy or whatever, so we could say that no, then the husband's makbid, that he wants dafke this shliach to bring the get, and only if it's beyond his control that he got sick, then we say that the husband's not makbid. But stam laziness, or stam he says, let me go appoint another shliach, that the husband's is makbid, and therefore even if he's just lazy, he cannot appoint now another shliach. Ein shliach is a shliach. So frag the Gemara, pshita, obviously, what's Rav Kana adding? Obviously, the Mishnah says clearly, chala ktani, it said dafke chala. So what's the chiddush? So the Gemara says, ma'od the tema, you would think, hu adin, that the same halach would apply, that he can make a shliach, afagav delei chala, even if the guy did not get sick, he can make a shliach. And why did the Mishnah give the case of when he got sick? Is urchid milsa ktani, it's because that's a practical case of that he's going to need to appoint another shliach. But it's not implying that if he wasn't a chayla, that he can't appoint a second shliach.
He couldn't go because it was against his will. So dafka chala in the case of chala, but there could be many different reasons why this guy cannot go. Not that he's just lazy. It could be the guy.
So chala, yeah. So chala means chala, but also means like Rashi says, who in the chala insin, any einus, all kinds. But the point is, when we say chayla means, or like Rashi says, who in the chala insin, it means that if he could do it and he's just deciding not to for whatever reason, not because he's an einus, then the din is Rav Kana saying that he cannot appoint a second shliach. Okay, so now the Gemara asks on Rav Kana, hey chidami, what is our Mishnah speaking about? Ida Omar Lei, if the husband told the shliach, hoylech, he told him, take this get for my wife, so then afagav delei chala nami, even if he's not sick, the shliach could point a second shliach. Why? Because what did he say? Make sure the get gets there. How it gets there, I don't care, make sure the get gets there. So if he says just the word hoylach, he doesn't say you take it, so then even if he's not sick, he should be able to appoint the shliach. Now, Ida Omar Lei, and if the Mishnah is talking about that the husband told the shliach, at hoylech, that you have to go and bring the get to my wife. In other words, he specified you and nobody else. Afilu cholanami, even if the guy's sick, you should not be able to appoint another shliach. Now, and if it's shitas of Shimon ben Gamliel, which we're going to learn in a second, that he says that even in the case of hoylech getz the ishtei, the ein shliach is a shliach. Afilu cholanami, even if he's not sick, he cannot appoint. So the Gemara is trying to understand, what are we talking about over here? If we're talking about that the guy said, just make sure the get gets there, so even if he's not a chayla, shliach is a shliach. And if he said that you have to take it, so even if he's not sick, it should be aser. And Shimon ben Gamliel will say, even if he says hoylech getz the ishti, it should not be ein shliach is a shliach. Now, what do we see? That the Tanya we learned in a brayso, hoylech getz the ishti, If a person says to a shliach, go and bring this get from my wife, so the shliach can now appoint another shliach to bring the get. But if he says, you take this get, so he's not allowed to appoint another shliach because he said clearly at means you and nobody else. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says, whether he says or he says the words at, a shliach cannot make a shliach. Now, since the Brisa did not mention any case of Einus, it's mashma according to all opinions that there's no difference between chayla and not a chayla, that you can never make a shliach or shliach. And even a chayla, and even in a chayla, you shouldn't make. And if you do make, even without a chayla, which means not like Rav Kana. Rav Kana said that dafka chayla. So what do I see from this brisa? I see the brisa doesn't mention anything about shliach being an einus, which means that there's that everybody agrees there's no difference between a chayla to not a chayla. Not like Rav Kana says. So he says like this: Ibay Sema, I could say that our Mishnah is talking about hoylech. That our Mishnah is saying that he said just heilech gets el ishta. He didn't say the words ata. And what's the chiddush? He's saying us that he can only become shliach or shliach. Rav Kana is saying is when the guy's dafka sick. And this, the Brisa said hoylech harizem meshach b'yadacher means hu dechala, that he's sick. That's one way. So really, our Mishnah is talking about when he said the words hoylech and a shliach who's a chayla can make another shliach a shliach, but a shliach who's healthy, that he cannot make another shliach. Rav Kana said the Mishnah when it says chayla means chayla mamish. No, so Rav Kana says that it's dafka chayla. Chayla we see from this brisa that even not chayla cannot ein shliach is a shliach. So how do you answer the stira? Okay, so the point is, so the Gemara is going to bring three different answers. The first answer is that our Mishnah is talking about hoylech, and hoylech when dafka when he's a chayla, but if he's not a chayla, hoylech will not work. Now, what would happen in the case of at hoylech? Then, if he says you go, then even a shliach cannot ein shliach is a shliach. Now, that's according to the Tanakama. According to Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, Ben Gamliel is going to tell you sign the case of hoylech and sign the case of a hat hoylech. A shliach cannot make a ein shliach is a shliach. That's the first answer of the Gemara. Another answer I could tell you that our Mishnah is talking about at hoylech, that the husband is makbid and said you dafka bring the get, and therefore if he's not sick, he could not ein shliach is a shliach. However, when he's sick, and the shliach becomes sick, he could appoint another shliach because the husband is not makbid only when there's no einus. But when he's a chayla, then he is not makbid. So when the Brisa said lo yishal chena b'yad acher, then that's talking about when he's not sick. So according to the second answer, it would come out that in the case of hoylech, that every shliach can make another shliach even when he is not sick. But in the case of at hoylech, then shliach, only shliach who's sick can make shliach is a shliach, but a shliach who's bari he cannot. And according to Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, a shliach can never make a shliach is a shliach. Now, the third answer says V'yibay Sema. The third answer is that our Mishnah is talking about relation of hoylech and Rabbi Shimon Gamliel. And this is Rabbi Shimon Gamliel who says by hoylech ein shliach is a shliach. And therefore, if he is not sick, ein shliach is a shliach v'chala shani. So it'll come out according to the third answer that in the case of hoylech, every shliach is a shliach. In the case of at hoylech, only a shliach which is chayla can make a shliach, but a shliach which is healthy cannot. And Rabbi Shimon Gamliel is going to say that a shliach chayla can make a shliach, but a shliach who's healthy ain't a shliach is a shliach. That will be the three answers of how to explain our Mishnah. Okay. Weiter. Tanam, we learned in the Mishnah. Maybe get Eretz Yisrael v'chala. If somebody brings a get in Eretz Yisrael and he gets sick, so what did our Mishnah say? He could send it. He can make another shliach and send it with him. So the Gemara says, Rumino, I'm going to ask you a stira from a Mishnah and later in our Masechta Daf Samach Vav Aman Aleph. What does the Mishnah say? That a husband, Omar l'shnaim, if a husband told two people, Tenu get zeli ishti, give this get to my wife, and oy l'shloisha. So he says, give this get to my wife, or he's told us to three. Now what happened? So he says like this, Kisvu get utnu l'ishti, or he tells three people. The first case was he told two people, Tnu get l'ishti, give this get to my wife. Or when he told three people, Kisvu get utnu l'ishti. So the din is ha'elu yichtavu v'yitnu. So they could write the get and give the get to the wife. Why? Because when the man, we say that when he says the three people tnu kisvu get to tnu, so we say that the person who said to the two people tnu, he means that they should be the eidim on the get, that they should write the get and give the get. And therefore, in the case of three, even though they could make a beis din and command to make the get, since he told them beferish kisvu tni, the kavanah is that they should write the get. Now, so what do we learn from here? It's medayik inhu in, only they could write the get, avo shliach loy. But it's mashma from this brayso that a shliach is not, that ain't shliach oiser shliach. So how could you say shliach oiser shliach? So Rabbi answers Hassam in the case of the Mishnah Taimamai. What's the reason why ain't shliach oiser shliach? Is because mishum bezoyin debal. Because it's a disgrace for the husband. Because usually the husband, he has to write the get. The husband writes the get. And now the husband, because he doesn't know how to write normally, it's a bezoyin for him that he has to assign a shliach. He doesn't want people to know about that he doesn't know how to write. So therefore, he wants to keep the embarrassment to a minimum. So we say that this shliach does not have the right to go ahead and appoint another shliach. But in the case of the Mishnah, the husband's not makbid that a shliach is a shliach because it's not a bezayin. He just wants the get to be given to the woman. Now, he wants the get to be delivered. Yeah. So that's a bias answer. Rava says mishum. He says a very interesting answer. He says mishum de mili ninu. The fact is that these are all words. Umili loy mimastun l'shliach. Words cannot be given over for a shliach, which means to say like this. That the husband, in the case of a maybe get Eretz Yisrael v'chala, so the fact is the husband now is giving the shliach a get, so he's like shluchah shalom kambaisi. He has the power of the mishalech, so now he can appoint the second shliach to bring the get. In Mashenkein in the case of the minei haget, they don't have the koyach now to go and give the get to somebody else because he didn't give them a mamashus. He just told them go ahead and write the get. In our Mishnah, he mamash gave the first shliach a get, so this get has the power now to go ahead and appoint another. Mashenkein in the first case, not in our Mishnah, that's only mili lemem son l'shliach. So the Gemara asks, okay, so again, we had a question, right? Our Mishnah said, maybe get Eretz Yisrael v'chala zeh meshachar b'yad acher, and the Mishnah later on says, if he told two people tnu get liishti, or he told three people kisvu tnu get liishti, so what's the din? That hare elu yichtavu v'yitnu, but they cannot tell other people to go ahead and write it, right? So the it's a stira, shliach is a shliach or not. So Abaye wanted to say either bezayin or not bezayin. Rava says no. Rava says that in the case of our Mishnah, he's giving him a get. He's giving him a get. So now he can go ahead with that power and go appoint another shliach. When he says kisvu get liishtu, and so it's mashma that only they could write it, but nobody else. What did he give them? All he gave them is words. You cannot. You don't have the power to go ahead and appoint somebody else. So the Gemara says, "My binayo." So what's going to be the practical difference between the two? So the Gemara says, "Ika binayo." The difference is in the case of shliach matana. If a person who gives a gift, told two eidim and told them, kisvu shtar matana l'pleni, go and give this gift of a document of gift to a certain person. So the question is, can the shliach now make another shliach? According to Rava, words cannot appoint a shliach. So here too, words cannot appoint a shliach. That shliach cannot go ahead and tell somebody else to go and write that shtar matana. But according to Abaye, Abaye will say that mili memser on the shliach, but a get we're makbi because bezayin the baal. So shtar matana, which you don't have the logic to say bezayin the baal, l'chera it should work. So the Gemara says the pluksi that Rav Shmuel, Abaye and Rav are arguing in the same machlekes as Rav and Shmuel. Rav Omer matana in a get. Rav says that a matana is not a get, and the shliach could go ahead and appoint another shliach. Shmuel says no. Matana hari ki get. Matana has the same din as a get, and ein shliach is a shliach to go and write the shtar matana just like by a get, and that will be the cool like Rava. Okay. Then the Mishnah said of Amar Loin, the Mishnah said that if the husband goes ahead and gives the shliach the get and tells him clearly, Toil li heimeno chayvetz pleni, go ahead. When I give you the get, you have to go ahead and make sure that this chayvetz comes back to me. So Amar Ishlakish, what?
His wife will give it to the shliach.
Yeah, he makes it tonight. He says that I'm giving you the get, but make sure toil li heimeno chayvetz pleni. So the din is that shliach cannot go ahead and appoint another shliach and say, you know what? He asked me to do it. You go ahead and do it. You can't do that. Why? For sure, the wife has to give back the chayvetz. But the shliach, the mishaleach, told him clearly that I'm giving you the get, and I want you to take the pikadon back from the wife. So he cannot go ahead and make somebody else to be the shliach, because we have a problem to be in the hands of the second shliach. The wife has to give the get, yeah. Correct. The wife has to give the pikadon. That's the tanai in the get. So Amar Yishlakish says, Kan Shana Rebbe, over here from this Mishnah, Rebbe taught that, first of all, Ein Hashel Rashi Lahashel, when somebody borrows, he's not allowed to lend it out to somebody else. Ein Hasoicher, and somebody who rents, Rashi Lahasker is not allowed to sublease it, because we say that the guy who borrowed it to you, or the guy who rented it to you, wants stuff to you and not the other person. Okay. So now Rabbi Echlan asked Rish Lakish, this that you're saying, it's even children know this halacha. So what are you being mechadish? So therefore, Rabbi Yechon explains the Mishnah very different. Not Teli Amena Chayvetz Pleni, he explains it very different. Rather, he explains like this. Sometimes that if the shliach gives the get to another person, also that will not be considered a get. Why? Because since the husband says, Teli Amena Chayvetz Pleni, Nasa Kemish Amar Loi, basically it's like the shliach, the husband's telling the shliach, Al Tigarshi Elaba Bais. For example, it's like, let's say the husband says, do not divorce my wife only in a house, and V'gersha Baliya, and they got divorced in the attic. It's not a get. Why? Because he's mishaneh from the shlichus. The shlichus was to go ahead and bring a babayis, and he's doing it in the aliyah. Or Al Tigarshi Elaba Yamin, don't divorce with the right hand, and V'gersha B'smal, and he divorced her with the left hand. So since he was mishaneh from what the Mishaleach wants, the Gershon is not a good Gershon. So therefore, when he says, Toili Amena Chayvetz Pleni, sometimes he's makbid. He wants Dafka the Bikodim to go back to the Shliach, and since he's mishaneh from a Shlichis, the din is an Eini get. It's not a good get. Now, when you use the expression of Zimnim, you say Zimnim means the Gittin Daf is mashma that according to him, really it's a good get, even if he sends it in another shliach's hand. So the Gemara asks, the Gemara says like this: the Kula Amma Sai Rish Lakish and Rabbi Yechon both hold Heicha de Nafkalape. When the woman now goes and greets the second shliach, she goes and greets the second shliach. So then the din is that the Yoiv Lechefet. So if when the woman goes ahead and greets the second shliach and gives the second shliach the chayfetz, and then the hodr shakli minei gita, and then he goes and gives her. He takes the chayfetz, and then he goes and gives her the get.
No.
Takes the get.
He takes it from the other shliach. The second one takes it from the first shliach.
He gives the second person.
Hechid and Afkalape, when she goes now and she goes and greets the second shliach, v'yoiv lei chayfetz, and gives her, she goes and gives him the chayfetz.
He takes the get from him.
V'hadar shakla minei gita. Who takes the get?
The wife takes the get.
Oh, she takes the get. Right. She takes the get from
He
him.
takes the get from the second one.
From the second
He
shliach.
made.
Right. Okay. Yes, she takes the get. Yeah, that's what I meant. She gives the chayfetz. She takes now the get from the second shliach.
He takes the second one and takes the get from the second.
Correct. Yeah. So kula amalei pligi di gita gita ma'alio. Everybody will say that is a good get. Everybody will agree that the get is kosher. Why? Because the husband's not makbid. The husband wants the get to the wife. He's makbid now on the chayfetz. So the get is not totally on the chayfetz. Why? Because it's possible that the shliach will only give the get. The second shliach will give the first shliach will give the second shliach the get, and when it comes to the chayfetz, he'll take it back himself. So it will come out that he's not being mishana from the shlichitz. So he says, "Ki pligi." When did they argue? Heichad Amrlei. When he says to the husband says the first shliach when he appoints him, "Shkoil mina chayfetz." You take the chayfetz for me. He says clearly. Then v'hadar havle gittin. Then afterwards, give her the get. So since he said in this lashon, meaning he's very makbid. And she should not be given the get until he gets the chayfetz. And what happened? V'azal ihu, and then the shliach went and he was mishana from what the husband said. V'yoiv la gita, he gave her the get, and then v'hadar shakal mina chayfetz, and then he took the chayfetz.
It makes a difference which order you take.
Oh,
Yes, it
so
makes a
so
difference.
so that's what he says.
So you're giving her the get.
Correct. So now here's the machlekes. Rabbi Yochanan paisel ba. Rabbi Yochanan will say it's possible. In other words, if the first shliach did this, so then it's possible because he was mishana from the shlichus. So if the first shliach, the husband tells the first shliach, I want you dafka to take the chayfetz first from the wife and then give her the get, and the first shliach now switch that around, Rabbi Yochanan is going to say it's possible, and kol sheken b'shluchei, for sure if the first shliach goes ahead and points a second shliach is a shlichus, for sure the halacha will be that the get is not a good get. And this is what Rabbi Yochanan is saying, is that sometimes it's not a get when he's being mishana from a shlichus. And this is what our Mishnah is telling us, that he should not lo yishalchena b'yad acher. Why? Because I'm worried that the first one should not appoint a second shliach, because I'm worried that the husband was makbid dafka in this order, and the second guy didn't get the memo. He's going to switch it, so it's not considered a good get. Reish Lakish will tell you machshir, the get is a good get. Why? First of all, it's b'shluchai, for sure by the shliach. The kol shekin bayin, for sure by the shliach himself. Why? Because we say he said this, but he wasn't makbid dafka in this order. Okay. Now the Mishnah continues azui, and this is what you were asking before. I maybe get in Medinas Hayam, if somebody brings a get from overseas to Eretz Yisrael, which we know he has to say b'fanei nichta v'b'fanei nechta, but the shliach now got sick, and now he wants to appoint another shliach to take his place. Now, could the second shliach say b'fanei nichta v'b'fanei nechta? No, because he didn't see it. So what do? Oisha shliach beis din u'mishalchi. So now the first shliach has to come to beis din and say, I'm sick, I'm not going to be able to deliver the get, so I'm saying b'fanei nichta v'b'fanei nechta, and I'm appointing shliach beis to bring the get, and now the din is mishalchi in front of beis din, he can go ahead and give the get. V'oimer the fneim, and the first shliach says b'fanei nichta v'b'fanei nechta, and v'ein shliach achrin tzarich she'emer, the second shliach does not need to say, or he can't say b'fanei nichta v'b'fanei nechta. Eloimer, what does he say? Shliach beis din ani. He just says I am a shliach beis din, and beis din in the place of the giving of the get are seimich that this guy is a shliach beis din, and they're seimich that he's a shliach beis din from the first shliach who said b'fanei nichta v'b'fanei nechta.
Does he have to testify that the other guy got challah?
Yeah, but I'm sure, yeah. Yeah.
I don't think it does it as far as testimony. It's just a formal agent. It doesn't say anything about testimony at all.
So I'm not sure.
It doesn't say it's a formal agent.
What's
It's
it?
like before you call
So I'm not sure. In Shulchan Aruch it's mashma. In Shulchan Aruch it's mashma that as long as he says shliach based in ani, it's considered like he said before nichta. Okay, let's put some speed over here. Okay, so now the Gemara has like said this. Omer the Rabbanon the Avimi b'rei Rababo Reb Avimi. The Chacham said to Avimi b'rei Rababo to the son of Rababo. They said like this: Boy minei Rababo, ask from your father the following question: Shliach to shliach meshave loy loy. Can the second shliach now? When we say shliach is shliach, so the first shliach now makes a second shliach. The question is, can the second shliach now make a third shliach, which the second shliach we know is a shliach based in? Do we say shluchah shaladam kameiser or not? Can he appoint a third shliach or not? So Amr lahu. So Abimi tells the Chachamim, I don't need to ask my father this question. Why? Because the Tana of our Mishnah says, Ein hashliach ha'achron. What does it say? The Tana said that. I may be getting this yom b'chala oiser shteb beveisten u'mishalche v'em lefneim b'fanei nichtam ve'ein hashliach achrein tzarich sheyemer. And the second shliach, which means the last shliach, does not need to say b'fanei. Now, why does it use the expression ve'ein hashliach achrein and not ein hashliach sheni? Mechlal the mishavi shliach. Will smash with that, the second shliach could make a third shliach, and that's why the Tana used the expression of hashliach ha'achrein and not the third shliach. So he says, if you want to ask a question, ask like this: when the second shliach now makes a third shliach in his place, does he need to do it in Bevezdin, in front of Bezdin, just like the first shliach was memana, the second shliach it was done in Bezdin? Oh yeah, filu shlei Bevezdin, or maybe if it's not in front of Bezdin, it's also considered good. Again, the first shliach, the second shliach is coming mikayach the first shliach. He was appointed only in front of Beis Din. So now, if you, the second shliach, now wants to appoint the third shliach, it has to be with the same kayach that he got it. It has to be in front of Beis Din.
Why would you think not to be?
Because we're going to see in a second. It's a very good question. Because the question, the bottom, I'm just putting speed because we're in a rush. The thing is like this: which koyach is he coming from? Is he coming from the koyach of the shliach, or is he coming from the original mishaleach? So let's see in a second. So Amrlei, so the Chacham talavimi halemi boilan. This is not a question, because what does the Mishnah say? Elohim or shliach based on ani. It must be that he has to say that shliach based on. Now, zog the different gears from Nachman Yitzchak Masni Hacher. Nachman Yitzchak taught as follows: ask your father shliach l'shliach k'mishav shliach, a second shliach. When he wants to appoint a third shliach, does he have to do it in front of Beis Din? Oy shaloi bebeis din. So Amar lahu. So Avimi told the Chachamim, tiboy lechu imeshav shliach ba'ama. Why don't you ask b'chlal if the second shliach can make a third shliach? Amar lehu like coming by alone. It's not a shayla. Why? The time we learned clearly in the Mishnah. Ein hashliach achron. Why does it use the expression of achron and not shlishi? Is mechlal the shliach meshav shliach oiser shliach. Elaki mi bailan. What's the suffix? Is bebeis din oy shlei bebeis din. Amar lahu. He said, "Hanan mi leiti bailechu." It's not a question. Tani elo imer shliach bebeis din ani. So you always have to say, if you want to appoint another shliach, you have to say it has to be in front of beis din. Amar Rabba says, "Shliach be'eretz Yisrael." Shliach who brings the get in Eretz Yisrael. So the din is oisek kam shluchim. He can make as many shluchim as he wants. Why? Because he does not need to say b'fanei nichtav b'fanei nechtam in Eretz Yisrael. Amar Rashi says, "In meis rishon." Here we go, Mati. If the first shliach dies, batlu kulon, then all the shluchim, the next shluchim are all batal. So Amar Mar Ravashi Hada Abba, this, that. So now he says, you know what my father said, Ravashi, the Katnusi, he said this when he was very young, and don't rely on what he said. Why? Because he said, Ilu meis bal, if the husband's going to die, midam mashashi ispuhu, is there any mamish in the shlichus? The whole shlichus comes from where? Kula mikeh manka asu. All the shlichus comes from where? From the mishalech, from the husband. Mikech the balka also. Isi the bal is no kulei. If the husband's alive, then the shlichus is good. Then, but if the first shliach, even if the first shliach dies, they're all coming from the kech habal. Leisa the bal, listen to the kulei. But if the husband dies, then they're all shlichus is all batal. Okay, now the Gemara says a story. Hahu gav the shad the Gittin Daf. So there was a person that sent a shliach, sent a get to his wife. Amar shliach. And he told the shliach when he appointed him, so I'm sorry, so the shliach said, I don't know who your wife is. So Amar lei, so the husband said, Zil yahavele la'abba bar minyumi, go and give this to Abba bar minyumi, he knows who my wife is. And let him go bring the get. So now the shliach came to that place, and he could not find this Abba bar minyumi to give the get. and he needed to go back. So he found these people, and Amalei, the three people told him, give us the get in front of us, and we'll be a base in the Chiyasi Abba Ramyami, and when we find Abba Ramyami, we'll give it back to him. So the fact is, this guy was not considered a shliach legershon, he was a shliach to go and give it to somebody else. So what happened? The Gemara says, ikasafu. They all got embarrassed. They just said not a correct halacha. So Rabbi says, kapchina Reb Safra tlosa rabbanon samchud Reb Safra, and he was not even a soymech lahira. He chopped off their legs. He mamish embarrassed them. These three people soymech lahalacha, and they didn't even know the practical halacha. Rashi says, but my kapchinu, how did he knock them off? Mika Amarle, did the husband tell the shliach Abba bar Minyomi v'leiat the dafka Abba bar Minyomi, not you? He pointed him as a shliach, and he says that you don't know who my wife is. Go to this guy, but you still have a shlichus. Other people say, Rabbi says, Reb Safra knocked off these three chachamim who were smuchim b'tos.
Wow.
And Rav Ashi says, "My tuusa. What's the big deal?" My Amarle. What do you say? Abba bar Minyamin v'layat. Did he say dafka Abba bar Minyamin, not you? Okay. The Gemara says, "Hahu gav the shavle Gittin Daf." There's a person who sent a get to his wife. Amarle. He told the shliach, "Lo teisvin halayat losin yemin. Do not give this get for 30 days." Itnis begoit losin yemin. And what happened was there was a einus. And he realized that after 30 days, he's not going to be able to deliver the get. Also, the Kamei Rabbi came in front of Rabbi. Rabbi says, Chala. It says, Dafka Chala, which means, Time Amai, Mishum the Anus. It must be because it's Ainus. The logically, we said before, Hanami Anasu. So too, your case is honest. So Rabbi said to the Shliach, bring the get in front of Beis Din, and after 30 days, you become the Shliach, and then bring the get. Since after 30 days, this guy can go ahead and bring the get. It's considered